Okay, so have you ever heard of the whisper effect when it comes to marketing? It's interesting because it's kind of what movies do. It's really cool because I had heard about this a while back and I don't remember where I heard about it, but oddly enough, I was listening to Alex Hormozzi's podcast and he brought it up and he said he couldn't remember where he had heard about it, but it's really cool. It's the idea of, like, you know, when you go to see a movie, right? You go to see a movie and there's the trailers that are new releases, right? That are like, they'll show the trailers of a movie that's coming out like next month, right? But then they'll also show these movies that are coming out next fall. They'll show you, oh, next summer, blah, 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 next fall, next winter. Like, they have these movies and they're telling you about stuff that's 9 months out, that's 6 months out, 9 months. But the movies that they show you that are like coming out next month, they got this long, elaborate trailer, right? But the one that they're showing you that's coming out in 9 months or next year, right? It's like, it's August right now and they're like, hey, check this out next summer, summer of 2024. Like, so when they show you something like that, the trailer is really small. It's really condensed. And it's just this whisper. That's why it's called the whisper effect. Because that's what it is. It's just a whisper. It's like, hey, I got this thing that I'm working on that's coming out and you should remember to come see it later, right? And if you're someone who goes to the movies regularly, then as it gets closer and closer and closer, those trailers will get longer. And then it gets to the shouting from the rooftops type of vibe, because that's what it gets to. It gets to the point that it's like, hey, this is coming out. It's July and this is coming out in September, or it's November and they want you to know about the movie that's releasing at Christmas, right? So all of a sudden they got this whole thing. It'll be like 3 minutes long. It's got this real elaborate trailer. It tells you so much about the movie. It keeps sometimes they even almost reveal too much that you feel like, why'd they tell me that? I didn't want to know that detail. But it's like, but the idea is, this is an incredible marketing idea or concept, because what it does is it creates a buzz, right? It creates a buzz. Because when you go to the movies and you see that movie that's coming out next year, what do? And you're like, oh man, I don't really understand what it was about. Really, it was going to be this cool sci-fi thing, whatever. So you tell your cousin, or you tell your sister, or you tell your best friend or your coworker, and you're like, hey, there's this movie. We got to remember, like, next year, we got to go check it out, man. This is going to be cool. And then as it gets closer, you get more and more intrigued because you kind of already somewhat in the back of your mind, because it seemed intriguing, you've already invested yourself into it, right? You're like, I gotta remember because I want to go see it. Okay, so that's what you can do that with a product. It's an incredible marketing gimmick because what you do is you do it with a product. So something that you're working on. You're like, I'm developing it. Tesla did it. Tesla did it with the Cybertruck. They were talking about the Cybertruck. They've been talking about the Cybertruck for several years now. And the Cybertruck is still, it's kind of, you know, but they've been talking about it for years. And it's something that Tesla, that Musk and the board and all the engineers and developers, that they're determined it's going to happen. But it's got such a buzz around it that people have been eagerly anticipating and waiting. Like, they can't wait till it's officially here. And it's like, that's what you do. That's the whisper effect, because you just, each time it gets closer, you just give a little bit more. And as you give a little bit more, they become more enthralled, more entranced, more invested, more determined. That they just, it's like they had that little glimpse in the beginning, and that little glimpse psychologically does something. Psychologically, it tells them they can't forget. They got to remember, because they don't want to miss out. They don't want to be the one who didn't see it because they were warned about it a year in advance, right? Okay, so it works on that level. But the second level that I haven't heard anyone else talk about, but for me, I think that it works on a level for the marketer and for the developer and for the company, the businessman, the entrepreneur. I believe it does something for them as a person, as a company, because psychologically, it's a level of accountability, right? Because you're like, I already told the world about this. I've got to stay on track, right? I've already told everyone. They all know. It's on the record. I can't let this slip away. You know? And when you do that to yourself, like I said, it's accountability. You have now committed yourself to making sure it happens. And the thing is when you do this, it helps prevent you from being late or falling short of your goal, right? Because you're like, I've told everyone that it'll be ready, at the new year. Like, it's March. And I said, you know what? Come the new year, it's March 2023. Right now it's November. But like, say it's March 2024, right? And I tell y'all, hey, we're going to have this launch, this new project. We're going to launch this January 2025, right? So that I just gave myself a 9-month timeline because I gave the world a 9-month timeline. And because by giving the world a 9-month timeline, I'm like, I've got to stay on top of this. I've got to start putting in things. I've got to put plans together and put things in motion so that way we don't lose track and we keep that accountability level to the point that we're efficient and we're productive. If you come in ahead, it's okay. If you fall short, it's never good to oneself. But the thing is just like Tesla, this is the interesting flip side of that coin. Just like Tesla, when they fell short of making the self-driving car, the Cybertruck, the certain things, Tesla, Neuralink, several things that Musk has been involved with. He is very well known for overextending himself and biting off way more than he can chew. But people love it. There's something about it that excites people. It's true. And the fact that he's fallen short on several occasions seems to actually draw more people in. Like, they get more eager. They're like, oh man, when it finally comes out, it's going to be good. It's going to be really good. I think there's been businesses and people who've done this before, and they fall short. And when they fall short, it almost creates an extra added level of hype, right? Because people want to know why. Well, if it fell short, it's got to be even better. Spielberg did it with Jaws. Nearly lost his career before he had a career. But the thing is when he finally got done, it was so good, it was so great, that people didn't care that it was late. People didn't care that it was behind. People didn't care that it was over budget. It was so amazing. Guns N' Roses did that with Chinese Democracy. They had talked about Chinese Democracy coming out. It was an album that their comeback album. They had been talking about it coming out for like 10 years. It took like 10 years for them to get this album to drop. When it finally did, for most fans, it missed the mark. Which was unfortunate because it did the opposite of what Spielberg did with Jaws. It did the opposite. People kept waiting and waiting and waiting and anticipating, and the hype was high. And then when it finally came out, it was just like, this is what we've been waiting for? Really? Like this? Those are just two simple examples, but companies have done this a lot. If you fall short, you better make sure that it was worth the wait. If you come up early, sometimes you can finesse the situation a little bit so it just kind of comes out on time. Or if it's not too early, maybe people will get excited. You can have an early release of your new product, your new program, your new project, your new merchandise, whatever it is. But ultimately, the idea is, like I said, the whisper effect not only draws attention and draws hype to your fans, your followers, but it also keeps you accountable. It's your boy. Be sure you share this with somebody else. Who knows who it might help? Like and subscribe. I'm out.